White House National Security Advisor John Bolton, in front of Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday, reaffirmed the Trump administration's decision to withdraw from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, also known as INF, with Russia. Bolton told reporters during a press conference with Putin that a formal notice of withdrawal will be filed in due course. He added that Russian violations of the treaty were a major factor in our decision to withdraw. The Kremlin denies violating the treaty and slammed the decision to pull out of the deal. Of course, there are weak points in the treaty, but tearing up the agreement without plans for anything new is what we don't welcome. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters, according to Reuters, to first reject the document and then talk of ephemeral possibilities to conclude a new one is a dangerous stance, Peskov added. Putin continued to reporters that he and Trump would meet next month on the sidelines of World War I memorial events in France. The landmark deal, which was signed between former President Reagan and General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union Mikhail Gorbachev in 1987, is an agreement that allows the United States to counter Chinese efforts to accumulate arms in the Pacific but prevents Washington from deploying new weapons in response. China is not a signatory to the deal, and the Trump administration has accused Russia of violating the deal in the past. Russia's decision to violate the INF Treaty and other commitments all clearly indicate that Russia has rebuffed repeated U.S. efforts to reduce the silence roll a number of nuclear weapons, the administration wrote in a nuclear strategy document earlier this year. So and there's one paragraph, sentences, a couple sentences left, but I want to get to the bigger implications here. Now, if you paid attention to what was read, Bolton said the the alleged Russian violations were a major factor in getting out of the deal, not the factor that led to it getting ripped up, which means that he's confirming there was something else going on that made us get out of this, and that's significant because I said this before. Trump himself is not the issue. He's surrounded himself with neocons and people that actually have an agenda. And one of the problems with neoconservatives, at least when it comes to foreign policy, is this idea that we have to be aggressive toward every region and everywhere that we possibly can be. So a lot of people are saying, oh, if Trump gets in, he won't have the same hostile relationship that Hillary would have with Putin. Well, he's in, and even if he himself does not cause it to go wayward, by ripping up the INF deal, that's just another part of the process of screwing up relations between Russia and the U.S. long term. Because even if Bolton and these other foreign policy advisors like Pompeo don't get their way and we don't get a conflict with Russia, who's to say that in another 5 to 10 years, when a Republican is in the White House again, we're going to have the same problem, or we're going to have an issue with Russia that this treaty could have been used to prevent. And that's really the lasting damage that comes with just pretending these deals are not worth salvaging or keeping in place. They were signed for a reason. And like I said, I will take any treaty over any war, whether it's signed by Trump or whoever. But instead, we're getting a strange rebuff that all these Republicans that were sitting over there licking Reagan's genitals for decade after decade and talking about he knew what he was doing, what a great president. Blah, blah, blah. You don't see any of them coming out and saying, why are you ripping up his treaty with the Russians? That's so basically we're going to possibly get into a war, or at least the relations that could lead to a war, because a majority of Republicans who call themselves Reaganites or loving of Reaganism are too scared of Trump to say anything about him getting rid of their boyfriend's treaty. Tell you, that's all Trump's team seems to be able to do. We just rip up treaties and deregulate everything. All the secretaries, except for the defense one, are all there just to get rid of all the regulations and undo all work that was done before. And that's exactly what the foreign policy advisors are trying. Instead of practicing diplomacy and seeking a solution that doesn't require us to have some mass genocide of loads and loads of people who had nothing to do with any of the nonsense spewed out by any of these world leaders, we're just getting more of the nonsense of, oh, this country is trying to do something to us. We have to stop them. They're trying to mess with it. And no one is saying, hey, wait a second, this kind of sounds off. Why are we all of a sudden having problems with Russia? um, to the point we're getting rid of treaties, and we refuse to investigate the collusion thing, which I already think is a bunch of nonsense. But that's that whatever. I think that the Democrats are just mad they lost the election. But the bottom line is you're going to screw up your relations just for the sake of a couple of guys in suits getting their way and having a president that does not have any actual views, just listing all of his advisors who are advising him into getting into the U.S.'s eighth concurrent war. Good job with that.